Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shenanigans Show. It is the day after Anime Expo. I'm trying to record this video so it's still kind of fresh, but I did have a night to sleep on my experience with Anime Expo with Anime Expo. Before I really get into it, I just want to say if you've been following the Anime Expo videos, this Anime Expo 2024 vlog series, I really appreciate it. Any and all interaction is greatly appreciated. But since this is the commentary, let's get to talking about my thoughts about Anime Expo this year. I feel like in a lot of cases it was kind of very similar to Anime Expo 2023, where on the whole, organization was for the most part pretty decent, pretty good. Again, it could have been much better, like 2023 could have been much better. 2024 this year could have been much better in many respects, but that doesn't mean that it was bad per se. I personally haven't heard or seen anyone post about having a not so great time at Anime Expo or a bad experience with it this year, which I guess is like a positive in a sense because again I haven't seen too much of that kind of content surrounding this year. If you attended Anime Expo this year and want to chime in the comments, please feel free to do so. I'd personally love to hear varying opinions about this, and I'd love to talk about it because I feel like the more it's talked about, the more chance that Anime Expo will have to improve itself. Not that this video or any videos that I've made on Anime Expo will have a big impact on it, but I feel like the more we talk about it and kind of critique it and give constructive criticism, it will open the door to Anime Expo improving itself, and hopefully Anime Expo will. So my plan is to just kind of do like a back and forth with like pros and cons, like the good and the bad. I don't want to be saying just good things or just bad things because again, there were things that Anime Expo definitely needs to improve upon, and there are definitely things that not as much. Let's actually start off with the positive. We'll start and end on a positive. I personally thought that all of the panels they offered this year, Anime Expo offered and allowed this year, were very interesting. And I only took screenshots of the panels that I attended, so they're kind of flipping through on the screen right now. But something I also found useful was that they weren't just including like panels and workshops and premieres, but in the schedule they were showing special guests who were having signings and meetups with people. They were showing what times and where they would be available, along with showing performances and when those performances were happening. So I do think that that was a lot better. And I do think that the Anime Expo app is really helpful, really useful. So if you're ever attending Anime Expo, please get the app. Although I do think that they should feature what's going on in the entertainment hall as well, because they do have a lot of stuff going on in the entertainment hall, but because it's not like mapped out within the app, a point where they were kind of like a little bit stagnant in comparison to 2023. Maybe stagnant's not the right word, but it's like they were the same. They didn't really fall behind or improve upon 2023 in terms of this, and that is like crowd management. There were certain little parts where I can definitely see that they were trying to be more organized. Like one point distinctly that I remember is on day 4, I was waiting to get into the exhibit hall from the side entrance where the ADA line was. A couple of staff members there, mainly one, but the couple of staff members there, and they were trying to make sure that people were lining up and that the ADA line was organized in a way that was beneficial and effective for the staff and for people to get in. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second. It was minor moments like that where it wasn't necessarily done on a grand scale. And the thing is too, on like ADA lines, like they have been better and kind of very slowly improving. I have a couple of points, not so great points to talk about ADA lines. With inside, at least, is that for the entertainment hall, at least, I didn't go at the start of the day when it first opened. Like when the stuff first opened, I didn't go into Artist Alley first thing, like 9 a.m. when it opened, but I did on 2 separate days for entertainment hall the 3rd day, and then exhibit hall the 4th day. The entertainment hall, the ADA line was like pretty close to the door, kind of off to the side. Again, there was an ADA line to the side entrance of the exhibit hall, but it's like part of it that was like kind of like a lot is that my friend and I, we had parked in the West Hall parking lot and walked all the way over to get in line for the exhibit hall so we can try to hit a couple of the booths first. And like I was saying, like for the entertainment hall, they had the ADA ADA line pretty close to the front, and I know the entertainment hall is just like that one main entrance and exit, and I think one other as well. But it's like they should do the same for the exhibit hall, which they didn't do. It was like the side entrance, which like it was like the side back entrance, which on the one hand was like kind of helpful because the main booths that I wanted to get to were in the back, and all of the crowds were like in the front. But it's like have ADA lines accessible at every point of entry to the different halls, the artist alley, the exhibit hall, and the entertainment hall. Have ADA lines at every point of entry. And on that note, another little sticking point for me, they were handling ADA lines well for the panels. They were doing that well, but it was just like entering places that was not handled well for ADA, which sucks. And I think I talked about this in a TikTok video I did, but I had to have an ADA sticker because I have knee issues and I also have chronic migraines, and it is really hard for me to be standing for very long, and the heat really causes my migraines, and sometimes like it just all gets too much, so I end up getting a migraine no matter what. I lost my train of thought again. Oh yeah, one of the sticking points for me was, speaking of standing in line and trying to avoid the heat as much as possible, especially in the middle of freaking summer in Southern California. I've grown up in Southern California my whole life. I've been in the same area my whole life in Southern California, and it is brutal in the middle of July. Like, yes, everyone has their various definitions of brutal, and I know that different areas have slightly more severe heat than California, but it is still brutal nonetheless, especially in comparison to places with milder summers. I'm getting a little bit active with my hands, or at least with this hand. Again, I try to avoid being in the heat too much during the summer because it's like I don't want to give myself like a heat-induced migraine. Like, I'm going to avoid that at any and all costs if I can. However, the ADA line to get into the convention center. So like even if you like got dropped off or had to walk from like a hotel, or you got dropped off by like a rideshare service or like a family member, or someone, it didn't matter if you had parked in one of the parking lots or nearby, or if you got dropped off, like I said, or walked there from the hotels. You had to walk all the way around to where all the other lines were, way past the entrance to like the back of the line to get to an ADA line. And even then, like, the ADA line was kind of off to the side, where it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to accommodate you and show that we're giving you a separate line, but that's the best we can give you. But the couple times that I drove there, it was like the last 2 days, days 3 and 4, both times parked in the West Hall, and like again, it was a situation of like walking all the way around. When up until like last year, they had a line in the parking lot of the West Hall, and then where you can get your bag checked and tap in and just go straight in, which was really useful as someone, as I said, with chronic migraines and with knee issues. And like, they didn't have that this year. Like, they did have a line kind of very close to the entrance, basically right at the outside entrance, but they were using that for exhibitors and people who had like booths, which makes sense. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that, but they should have had that line for ADA as well, on top of priority people. Well, not even priority people, but it's like ADA people should have a line that is as close to the entrance as possible, because even for me, even with my chronic migraines and my knee issues, I can kind of push myself a little bit to do what I need to do if needs must, But there are people with more severe health issues than myself that cannot do that and cannot afford to do that. But it's like a situation where it's like not giving ADA enough time to kind of get in. And like I said, I can manage. I can walk a little bit faster if needs must, as I said. But again, there are other ADA people who cannot do that. And going back to the point of separate lines for exhibit hall, artist alley, and entertainment hall for ADA, they would let the ADA people in maybe like a minute before everyone else is let in, which kind of defeats the purpose of giving ADA a separate line, in my opinion. Because if you're going to go to the point of giving them a separate line, then give them a 15 to 30 minute window, because that way they can have enough time, like let ADA into those halls, exhibit, artist alley, and entertainment, let them in 15 to 30 minutes earlier so that they can have enough time to like get to a booth or get to an artist or get to a specific area that they want to go to, like obviously let them know like, hey, these places may not be ready, so you may have to wait a little bit for them to finish up or finish setting up for the day. But that way they can like start forming a line and being at the front of the line there, rather than having to wait in an even longer line because they're letting more able-bodied people in like a minute later. So it's like giving ADA like a 15 to 30 minute window grace period to get to where they want to go before able-bodied people start pushing people around and pushing people over. Not that phrasing it that way is a little bit harsh, because usually people are somewhat aware of their surroundings. Some people less so than others, but it's a situation where it's like people aren't really pushing and shoving their way through things. There is some semblance of decency there, but it's like people are walking fast trying to get to where they're going, and they're just focused on that. So it's like if they bump into someone, it's like, oh, sorry, but it's like whether or not insincere, and then on top of that, they're not going to slow down just to not bump into people, And it's like, I weave around people a lot because I feel like I've been okay. I'm going to pause that thought for a second because I feel like I've been nitpicking a lot. Let me think of a good thing to say, because on the whole, 2024 was a pretty good year for me. All the staff and volunteers were really nice. I really appreciated that. Recently, especially this year, like I was saying, like all the staff, all the volunteers and security, really nice, really understanding. For the most part, helpful. There was like a couple who were just like, oh, I don't know, which is kind of hard to say, especially when you're talking to someone with an ADA sticker or ADA, where it's like, the least you can say is that you can get the answer. If you're going to say, I don't know, do not leave it at, I don't know. You want to say, I don't know, but I can get you an answer, or I can direct you to someone with an answer. On the whole, staff was really nice, really accommodating, volunteers as well. And it seemed like, on the whole, the staff and volunteers kind of knew where to point people out if people were asking for directions or were just asking questions in general. Like the staff seemed to, on the whole, have answers to questions. One last little thing that, oh, I do not remember that thought now. Jeez. ADA, the lines, or sticking point. Yeah. Crowd control. Crowd control is okay this year. It could have been better. I feel like with crowd control, though, it's like they need to have spaces where people can, like, walk through. If, like, they're not waiting to get into the entertainment hall or the exhibit hall or the artist alley. Artist alley is a little bit of a different story because it's down in Cantina Hall. I feel like they need to have, especially in the South Hall area when people are waiting for the exhibit hall. Like, again, entertainment hall is like a little less necessary, but like I feel like they need to have designated walkways. Staff and security are waiting there and just making sure that people can walk through. If they're trying to get from like one end of the South Hall to the other, or if they're trying to go down to the pit, like instead of making people like weave all the way around the crowd, it's like have little designated walkways for people to cut across. And if someone's trying to like cut in front, it's like, yeah, redirect them, but have a walkway for people to walk through. I still can't think of that thought that I had that I said I said it was like bookmarking. But if I remember it between now and when this video goes up, I'll mention it in the description. But as a whole, I did really enjoy Anime Expo this year. I had a great time. I was exhausted for a majority of it, which was kind of a bummer, but on the whole, I still really enjoyed it. And hopefully I will be able to go again next year in 2025. We'll see how things improve between Anime Expo 2024 versus Anime Expo 2025 if I'm able to make it. There's one more Anime Expo video, and that is going up on Tuesday the 30th, and that is the Book Tag Tuesdays manga tag that I created. And the main reason why I specifically created it and set up some questions for it was because I feel like a lot of the manga tags that I was stumbling upon, they weren't necessarily a bad dated, they just felt a little bit dated for me, like, and very much like they were very much 2000s going into the early 2010s tag questions. At least that's the way I felt about them. And I wanted something that was a little bit more broadly encompassing and generally encompassing and all encompassing. But that is it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.